Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1016, Thursday, January the 16th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about today. Let's get right to it. You know, Rand Paul is issuing an epic warning to the GOP. He says that the GOP will allow Democrat witnesses but will block Trump witnesses, and he warns that as a result of this, that the Republicans could be committing political suicide. Now, it sounds like his biggest issue here is that if the Republicans do not play it straight, and if they do what Rand Paul is suggesting, if they vote for the witnesses that the Democrats want, but they block the witnesses Trump wants, that there'll be blowback against them, and that the Republican voters in the states where these senators are may just not want to vote for these senators, which could cost them their seat, and that the Republicans could lose the Senate. Now, as far as Republicans holding on to the Senate, keep in mind, Republicans are kind of in the situation Democrats were in 2018. The Republicans are defending more seats, and you have quite a few. In fact, I think most, if not all, nearly all, senators really don't like Trump. Republican senators really don't like Trump. There's very, very few. The ones who even pretend to like him are frauds. The majority. The Senate Republicans are flat out not trustworthy. Let's put it that way. I could think of some other words, but I'm going to play it as clean as I can here. Let's just say they're not trustworthy. I don't trust them. I don't know about you. Maybe you have a senator you trust, but my senator from Ohio, I don't trust him to have Trump's back, and he's already come out publicly and said he wants witnesses, but he hasn't specified that he wants Trump's witnesses. Rob Portman. I don't trust Portman as far as I can throw him. I don't trust Roy Blunt. I don't trust a lot of these guys. And of course, we already know Mitwit Willard Romney. Don't trust him, obviously. You got Murkowski. You got Susan Collins. Obviously, Rand Paul's making a good point, but he's focused more on what he sees as a possible blowback from these Republicans not supporting Trump, costing the Republicans the Senate. And that is certainly a concern. It is critical that Trump hold on to the Senate in 2020. That is critical, and it's going to be tough to do because we're defending a lot more seats. And quite honestly, the Republican base is not going to be all that excited about a lot of these Republican senators because they know that they're frauds. Frauds. And that's what gives me concern. If they were good Republican senators, I would feel perfectly comfortable with our chances of holding on to the Senate. But because they suck so bad, it leads me to think that it's possible that some Republicans are just going to say, "Ooh, I just can't stand my senator." It's the same way I feel when I have to go in there and vote for Rob Portman. I don't want to vote for Rob Portman. What's the alternative? The Democrat? Or not vote for him at all? I mean, take your pick. You almost have to vote for the slimy, suck-ass Republican. You really don't have much choice. And I hate that. I really hate that. Here in Ohio, I just wonder, Rob Portman doesn't appear to me to be such a strong candidate. He's fully backed by the establishment. He comes from the Bush stable. But I always think, can't we find a Republican in the state of Ohio who can run against Rob Portman and defeat him? But no one seems to step up. And we're stuck with him. And a senator is 6 years. So I share the same concern, but I'll be honest with you guys. For me, it's much bigger than that. My gut is telling me that something stinks about this. Something stinks. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is. I just know that something stinks. That is why, even though over the last 2 or 3 weeks we've been talking about this, I have said that even though I would love to see the Senate trial and bring in the whistleblower, bring in Vindman, bring in Sharamella, whatever you want to call him, bring in Pelosi, bring in Schiff, certainly, probably Nadler, bring in all these people, bring in all the people who are a part of this scam. And there's some other names out there. Some of them are Mary McCord, and there's others who are part of the lawfare group. Bring them all in. And, of course, the Bidens. Bring them all in. Yes, that would be great. But something tells me that's not going to happen. And that's why I've said over the last 2 or 3 weeks, let's just have the vote, get the 51 votes, and end it without witnesses. Because I'm terrified at counting on the Republicans in the Senate to do the right thing. My gut is just telling me that something is not right about this. And then we find out from Roy Blunt, of all people, that they don't have the 51 votes to kill it. Now, there's another dynamic going on here, too. The Republicans have the 53 seats there. So they got the majority. But, you know, you can almost guarantee that Susan Collins, Murkowski, and likely Mitwit, Willard Romney, are going to screw us and the president. But we also have another dynamic. We have Joe Manchin, a Democrat senator from West Virginia, a state where Trump is extremely popular. Extremely popular. And there could be considerable pressure on Joe Manchin. So if you lose Murkowski, maybe you get Joe Manchin, because he'll be under a lot of pressure. And, of course, we have Doug Jones down there in Alabama. And he's going to be facing tough re-election. There'll be a lot of pressure on him. There's a couple different dynamics going on here. But it's just my gut. I don't have any inside information. I can't tell you how these people are going to vote. But here's what I do know. I do know that in the Senate trial, we're not going to see a public, open debate on the vote for witnesses. That's all going to be done behind closed doors. And it's likely being negotiated right now. And Chucky Schumer seems to be pretty happy these last couple of days, making comments that I don't like hearing. Also, the senators, unlike in the House where we hear them, ask the questions, that's not how it's done in the Senate. The senators in an impeachment trial in the Senate are jurors, not the questioners. You have almost like a court hearing. You have the prosecutors, that would be the Democrats. You have the defense attorneys, that would be Trump's lawyers. And then you have the senators who act as a jury. Jurors don't pop off questions. They can submit written questions, but you don't know who submitted what question. And it's all done in private. It's not done openly. We don't know who submitted what question. So this is a way that these Republicans, even if they get some of Trump's witnesses in there, what's to say that they're going to ask the right questions? Nothing. There's no guarantee whatsoever. All there is a guess. And based on what we know about the Senate Republicans, do any of you have any trust whatsoever that these guys are going to play it straight and have Trump's back? Senate Republicans. I do not. I do not. But so behind closed doors, they're going to vote on what witnesses to have. So let's just say that they want to bring in let's say any of the witnesses that the Democrats want, and they've got a list. If they want to bring in all these these witnesses to use against Trump, well, we can perfectly know pretty well that Mitwit is probably going to vote for the Democrat witnesses. That Barbara Murkowski and Susan Collins will probably vote for the Democrat witnesses, and they'll get their 51 votes. And then when it comes time for Trump's people, you get Mitwit and Collins and Murkowski, who do not vote for the Republicans, and therefore they don't get the 51 votes. And Trump doesn't get his witnesses. But even if they do, the Republicans, we don't know what questions they're going to submit. I guarantee they won't submit any of the questions I have. So I don't know that we'll get the whistleblower. I don't know that we'll get the bug-eyed fool. I don't know that we'll get the Penguin or Madame Botox or Vindman or Mary McCord or any of these other people, the Bidens. I don't know that we'll get any of them people. I don't know that we'll get any of Trump's witnesses. And even if we do, I don't know that they'll be asked the right questions. Something in my gut tells me this thing stinks. That's why I was hoping, even though I'd like to see the show, my gut's telling me if we had good people and the good Republicans in the Senate, I would feel pretty good about that. But we don't. And that's why I've been saying probably best if they can get 51 votes to just kill it. After they get to opening arguments, no witnesses, be done with it. Dismiss it, get it out of there. And I think that if McConnell worked on Manchin and Doug Jones, even if he loses Murkowski or Mitwitt or Collins, he might be able to pull the 51 votes off by maybe getting Manchin, who will be under tremendous pressure. So there's a way that this can be played, but I just don't trust. I just don't trust these fake Republicans in the Senate. The Senate is dirty, 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 and total deep state. They protect the deep state. Why are they going to go out there and expose the deep state? Because exposing, getting these witnesses, asking the right questions would expose that and much more. It would lead to many other things, which they don't want. That is my concerns. Those are my concerns. My gut is telling me I don't like the way this is looking. But I hope I am wrong. I hope I am wrong. Yes, Rand Paul making a good point. And I agree, it could certainly cause blowback and cause the Republicans to lose the Senate, which would be bad. But there's an even worse outcome, and that's what really concerns me. Well, of course, Madame Botox was all smiles as she signed the articles of impeachment with 10 different pens, and then gleefully passed the pens around, including giving one to Mad Max. She was smiling ear to ear. They had a great time signing these articles of impeachment. And her statement was just absolutely sickening. Sickening. I can't believe I'm actually watching this stuff. The fact that this can go on is just, I don't know how someone who has the power of the Attorney General, who has the power of some of these senators, can sit back and allow this to happen. I could not. My conscience would not allow me to be a part of this charade and not be very vocal about what I think is going on. Now, we've got Meadows and Jordan and those guys, but they're in the House. And they were put in the box during the House situation. And now it looks like that they're not being given any type of a role to play in the Senate. And that worries me as well. But yes, Madame Botox, completely sickening. Completely sickening. And she openly lied in her statement when she said, yeah, well, Trump's on the phone call with this Ukrainian president. He says, hey, do me a favor. That is not what he said. He did not say, do me a favor. Clearly, he said, do us a favor. And prior to that, he defined what us is. The country has been through a lot. It would be good if you could do us a favor. She knows that. She's a despicable, evil bitch. Let me say that without overpowering the microphone. She's a despicable bitch. And she should be called out. She should be exposed. And the cronies. And the people who have the power to do it don't appear to be doing anything. They're spectators. That's our job. Now you know why people like me could never win a House seat or a Senate seat or something like that. They don't allow truthful, honest people to have that kind of power. Very, very disgusted with what I saw today. And then, of course, last night, of course, at the Democratic debates, which I couldn't watch it. I was watching the Trump rally, to be honest with you. But I had to go because I have to do these videos, and I had to go and watch some clips of some of the so-called highlights of the Democratic debate. It was horrible. What I saw, and I watched maybe about 20 minutes of clips. I'm not sure even how long the whole debate was, but I watched the Biden clips. And, I mean, the guy is literally slurring his words. I mean, he's senile. Slurring his words, not making any sense. He can't hold a thought for more than 10 seconds. I mean, it's absolutely disturbing. And there's people out there who want to put this guy in power. That's scary. Can you imagine Joe Biden, President of the United States? His mind is gone. The things he says. Goodness. And this guy's the front runner. Well, at least that's what we're told. And now that I think that he and Liawatha may have teamed up to tag team Bernie, that's what it's starting to look like. I'm starting to think that we're going to see Biden try to maybe select Warren as his VP so he can use Warren so they together can take out Bernie. He's the biggest threat to both of them and the establishment. And so it looks like almost like a tag team deal with Biden and Warren now targeting Bernie. And speaking of Bernie, he is in deep, deep trouble. You know, I didn't check the left-wing news media yesterday to see if MSNBC or CNN or the New York Times or Washington Post or any of the rest covered the Project Veritas revelations from yesterday with this guy Kyle Jurek. I don't know. I'm guessing not, because I didn't really hear much flap about it today. It should have been one of the biggest stories of the day, but I didn't hear anything. So I'm assuming it didn't happen, that they're keeping this very, very quiet. But part 2 came out today, again with this nut Kyle Jurek, and there's no question now, watching the second video, this guy is straight up a lunatic, and he's dangerous. He says, again, in this part 2, we have this guy Kyle Jurek, the Bernie Sanders campaign employee, saying that gulags, he's talking about the gulags in the Soviet Union, says that the gulags were not that bad in the USSR. He says that our prisons are much worse. Huh? You gotta be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. You know what this guy's problem is now that I've seen 2 videos with him? This guy's one of them people who really is a dumb individual. He's an ignorant man. He doesn't know very much. He doesn't know very much. He's picked up a few left-wing talking points that he has somehow convinced himself are true, such as that gulags are worse than U.S. prisons. I'm pretty sure they're not. I'm pretty damn sure with what we know about the Soviet gulags that they were nothing like U.S. prisons. Not that U.S. prisons are a wonderful place, they're not. But Soviet gulags? Do you know what went on in the Soviet gulags? The most incredible types of torture and things. I mean, it's just, this guy's nuts. He's a really dumb individual, and that's his problem. He's really stupid. Now, he also said that he thinks that Bernie actually would like to throw people in gulags. He just can't talk about it. He says that that he is a proud communist, and he says that there are 4 other people in his office who are also commies, and he names them. I'm sure they appreciate that. He also says that if people fight back against the revolution, he thinks that there's a revolution going on, because him and a couple of dozen nutbags who think like they do, they think there's some great revolutionary movement in the country just waiting to explode. Well, the revolution did happen. It was the election of Donald Trump by 63 million people. And despite of everything that they threw at him to stop him, they still couldn't stop him. But this guy seems to think that he's got this consensus of revolutionaries who are going to, light the whole thing on fire. When it's actually just probably a couple of hundred nutbags that you'll find in the most progressive cities you'll go to, Seattle and Los Angeles and San Francisco and New York and places like that. You'll probably find a couple of hundred goons who are stupid enough to buy into this crap. But there is no great revolution building to overthrow the capitalist system, or the president for that matter. But he says if people fight back against the revolution, they may just have to kill them. This guy's straight up nuts. Says that that they do have Antifa people in the Sanders campaign, and he considers himself an anarchist communist. And we learn now from Project Veritas that even after they released the video, he's still not been fired. Still not been fired. Still works for Bernie Sanders. And of course, this is a crazy guy. And this is one of these type of people that are dangerous, because when you have nuts out there like Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan, and people of his ilk, and they see a guy like this, it perks up their ears, because this guy might as well have Patsy written across his forehead and a neon sign saying, I want to be a Patsy. This is exactly the type of nut that people like Brennan, CIA goons, will approach with a plan to offer him material support to do something that he would really like to do. And now I understand that O'Keefe has notified the authorities because he's concerned that this nut, Kyle Jarek, may attempt some sort of an assassination plot. And he's exactly the type of patsy that they look for. And he's stupid enough to fall for something like that, not knowing that these people never leave loose ends. Ask Lee Harvey Oswald. As soon as they get through using you, they get rid of you. He's an idiot. This guy's a dum-dum. But he's dangerous. And yes, I'm glad that they've reported him, but that doesn't make him any less dangerous. Very, very disturbing things going on today. Pelosi has named the impeachment managers, which will include the bug-eyed fool as the senior manager to lead the team. There's 5 to 7 of them. The penguin, Jerry Nadler, is on the team, and 5 of the 7 people are from New York or California. All hardcore leftist, Trump-hating commies. There you go. That's the team. We have the despicable demo commies voting down on a party line vote a resolution to condemn Iran for shooting down that passenger jet and for killing that American attacking the embassy and for killing 1,500 of their own citizens who are protesting in the streets. The Dems voted against that resolution. Do you see what we're dealing with here? The level of hate that exists? Everything is possible right now. Michael Flynn has reversed his guilty plea. Good. Very, very good. I'm so happy to hear that. Now, that forces the state, this would be the remnants of the Mueller team who are prosecuting Flynn, it now forces them to actually prove their case, which they can't, because Michael Flynn didn't do anything wrong. Even the interview by Pientka and Strzok, they admitted that they didn't think he was lying, and they didn't think he thought he was lying. Case closed. It's real simple. That's what it was all about. And what about running those confidential informants into him? What about having the fat man, Stefan Halper, spread the lie, which started the entire impetus of the investigation began because of the lie that Halper spread that Flynn was having some sort of an affair with Svetlana Lakova. Totally false. The whole thing's a sham. I can't believe that Attorney General Barr is letting this happen. He is definitely not on my list of favorite people this week. I can assure you of that. How he can sit there. I couldn't do it. If I was the Attorney General sitting here watching this, I would have to do something. Appears that he's doing nothing. Don't know what to think anymore. Regarding last night's debate, of course, we have both Van Jones and Al Not-So-Sharpton saying, hey, I didn't see anybody on that debate stage who can take Trump. Huh, really? Yeah, most of us figured that out a long time ago. Well, what's this? It looks like the entire Russian government has resigned, after Putin's State of the Nation address, where he's laid out a bunch of different, policy adjustments he's going to make, which will essentially, they're framing it as though it's going to consolidate his power. And that may very well be true. I have no idea. That's just what's being reported in the press. It's still pretty interesting that the entire government would resign because of this. So we'll just have to keep watching and see exactly how this plays out. But yeah, Putin doesn't want to let go of that power. Think about it. He was president. Then, after he served as president, we got, what's his name, little short guy. And Putin became the prime minister. Then once the little short guy is gone, back comes Putin to be president again. He just don't want to give up the power. That's all. So that shouldn't surprise anybody. Really, based on what we know about him. Who knows? We'll keep an eye on that and see how that develops. Well, we have a new email that's been discovered. It's very, very damaging to James Comey. Should be. If we actually had equal justice under the law. I believe when I was watching the hearings with Attorney General Barr, he was emphatic about about the fact that he really believes in equal justice under the law. Apparently, he's not watching the Flynn case. Maybe he hasn't read this email either. This email clearly shows that the dishonorable James Comey, former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, clearly shows that he's a criminal. Let's just get to the what this tells us. So this email that we have newly discovered shows that James Clapper, the unwitting idiot James Clapper, wanted to release a statement after the dossier was published by BuzzFeed, which he leaked, helped leak. Well, he leaked the information to CNN that the briefing had occurred, which allowed BuzzFeed to release the dossier. So Clapper, this guy's a real trick. So Clapper wanted to release a statement after the dossier was published by BuzzFeed to say that the intelligence community had not made any judgment that the Steele election material is reliable. Yeah, so Clapper, along with Comey and Brennan, cook up this deal to give the media what they needed to report on the fact that Trump had been briefed on the dossier, to give BuzzFeed the ability to release it. And then Clapper, once it's released, wants to come out to do damage control and say, yeah, now that it's out there, but here in the intelligence community, we're not so sure that it's all legit. Boy, these guys are despicable. Absolutely despicable. But apparently there was a disagreement. Clapper wanted to release this statement after the BuzzFeed releases the dossier to say that the IC, the intelligence community, had not made any judgment that the Steele election material was reliable. But James Comey writes Clapper a letter. You can read the letter at Conservative Treehouse. Essentially, Comey pushes back on Clapper and tells Clapper, hey, the FBI has concluded that the source, Christopher Steele, is reliable. And then he talks about the subsources, and that the subsources are most likely reliable because of their positions and who they know and this and that and the other thing. Even though we now know from the IG report that there was really only one subsource, if you believe that, and I really don't. And that subsource basically said, none of that stuff I told him was true. That was a joke. Man, oh man, how is Comey walking around a free man right now? I would have slapped the cuffs on this guy a long time ago. We've had the evidence on this guy a long time ago. It just keeps building and building and building, but nothing happens. And then we find out that there have been CIA agents interviewed, agents who work in the CIA who've been interviewed. We don't have their names, but we have learned that they did not want Steele's material to be in the intelligence community assessment at all. So it's looking more and more like it was really Comey and McCabe and Strzok who were pushing to get this Steele stuff out there. And that Comey and that Clapper and Brennan didn't want to be exposed to it. It's not they had a problem with it, but they knew it would expose them because this was an intelligence community assessment. That's why Comey was perfectly comfortable with it, because he goes, hey, it's Clapper and Brennan. Well, Clapper and Brennan don't want their names on it. They want it out there, but they want cover. And they were looking for Comey and McCabe to give them cover. And so that's what's going on here. Now, obviously, Durham knows all this, and we'll just have to see what he does. He better do something. Here's something else we find out in the IG report on page 312. Listen to this. Also, you can read this on Conservative Treehouse and more in depth. IG report, page 312. The FBI claims that no one in the FBI initiated the use of any confidential human source into the campaign prior to opening the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Also, that no investigative steps were taken prior to the opening of the investigation. We know this is total bullshit. Let me read that to you one more time. Page 312 of the IG report. The FBI claims that no one in the FBI initiated the use of any confidential human source into the campaign prior to opening the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Also, that no investigative steps were taken prior to the opening of the investigation. Of course, that's bullshit, because the opening of the investigation was July 31st, 2016. And by that time, Carter Page, Michael Flynn, Papadopoulos had multiple run-ins with their boy, Stefan Halper. This is clearly a lie. Oh, you don't believe me? Let's go to the IG report, page 400, and it'll tell you it was a lie. Here we go. IG report, page 400. The Crossfire Hurricane team tasked several confidential human sources during the 2016 campaign, which resulted in multiple interactions with Carter Page and George Papadopoulos before and after they were affiliated with the campaign, which means it absolutely had to have happened before July 31st, 2016. The IG report itself contradicts the FBI. How are these guys still walking around? How is this possible? Man, oh man, I hate like hell having to put my faith in some people, and I'm talking about Barr and Durham. Again, up to this point, everything that we've learned up to this point, most of what we've learned at this point about Barr is good. Just about everything we've learned about Durham is good. But it's just, something is sticking in my craw here. I want to have faith, but I've just seen too much. Call me jaded. Call me jaded. I've seen too much. I don't trust or have faith in any of these people to do the right thing. I hate like hell having to count on other people. That's why I take care of myself. I hate counting on other people, because usually when I do, I lose. And I feel like everything is riding on Barr and Durham. And I hate like hell that feeling that I have to count so much on someone else to do the right thing, especially when the right thing in this case is something that would be very difficult to do. I assume that there's other people out there that feel the same way. I don't believe in the pie in the sky bullshit. I don't believe in any of that crap. Wise man once told me, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. Told me that a long, long time ago. And I have found through the course of my life that is absolutely true. Believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. Good words. Good words of advice. I don't have a lot of confidence in these Republican hacks in the Senate. And I don't have a tremendous amount of faith and the system to clean itself up. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good one. See ya. Bye.